Welcome to the Mac and Jack Attack.
I'm Mac.
And I'm Jack. Together we created this podcast to strike up a conversation about opinions surrounding all things video games.
Yeah, and we're just a couple of guys who are very passionate about games, who wants to create a place for not only us, but also you, the listeners, to have a discussions and debates about video games.
But before we get into those discussions, we think it'd be best if you got to know a little bit about us. And now that we're done with this scripted bullshit, I'm still going with this. Who the fuck are you, Mac?
Dude, I don't even fucking know. Anyway, who am I? Well, I'm obviously a person that plays video games, right?
Yeah, so what's your history with games?
Right. Okay,
Yeah.
So in terms of my history about games, right? Well, let's go way back. I kind of actually, my dad is actually that got me started with playing video games, right? He actually started me out with a PC with a game called Sudden Strike, and also I'm gonna botch this one. I think StarCraft, is that the original?
StarCraft, yeah, the space alien dudes.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, the very first StarCraft. Granted, I was like a tiny weedy baby, so I wasn't that into it, but I enjoyed the concept, right?
Yeah.
But that's when my dad bought me a PlayStation 1, right? That's when I got real into video games. The games that I started playing on that was Resident Evil, Crash Bandicoot. There was a bunch of other games, but again, I was a kid. But that pretty much kick-started like the journey of video games. Like ever since then, I love video games, and not just not only like Sony, but it got me curious within like Microsoft with their Xbox, obviously Sony with their PlayStation, Nintendo with their
everything.
Nintendo. Yeah, basically everything. Yeah, I'm really interested, and I love all genres. So, yeah, that's basically my history with video games. How about you, man?
My history of video games is my dad also is the one who pretty much got me into it. It was mostly him and my older brother back in the day. So I was always player two, or not even in a lot of cases. I would just watch him play games. The first console I remember having was the Super Nintendo. I just remember like my brother playing a lot of Killer Instinct and
Nice.
a lot of Super Mario. Yeah, I was always green if I ever played. And then like for the longest time, I always did just watch my brother play. But it wasn't up until the Xbox 360 and PS3 when I started playing for myself. I know that it came out on the original Xbox, but like the game that I have a lot of fond memories with back in the day that like really got me into gaming was Ninja Gaiden. My dad was super into that, like the Xbox one. And then I would be like, yo, that ninja's cool. I want to be like him. I didn't play that game until like forever later. And then also Mortal Kombat Shaolin Monks was like probably the first game that I beat with my brother. Yeah.
Hell yeah.
But yeah, so that's just a little bit of our history. But what do you think are your favorite games, Mac?
Ooh, right. You know what? I have a bunch, so I hope you're ready for this. Yeah.
Yep, I got a bunch too.
So if we're gonna go for ranking, are we going from one to later, like, or number one being the best?
Let's do number one being the best.
Cool. All right. Well, then if that's the case, I'm not gonna go by numbers. I'm probably gonna forget. But let's just go from. Okay. Well, if that's the case, then I do like Smash. Smash is one of my favorite games, right?
Mm-hmm.
Really love that game. It's obviously one of those get together type games, which I love. That's one of the other main reasons why I love gaming. Just inviting a few friends over and just playing video games, right? So
Yeah,
that's with Smash. It kind of like invited all my friends over, right? So Smash is one of them. The other one as well is got to be Mortal Kombat, right? Mortal Kombat is one of my favorite games as well. Just like Jackie's reaction with Ninja Gaiden, Scorpion in Mortal Kombat was my go-to character, and still to this very day, my main. So that's one of them. Love Mortal Kombat, love the story, and it just looked pretty cool when I was a kid. One of the other games, games that I really love, it's got to be Turok. To be honest with you, Turok is one of my favorite games. To be honest with you, I like the original Turoks from the N64, and I also like the new one that came out in the Xbox 360. And not a lot of people know about that. I think it got pretty bad reviews, but I was a bit biased because the whole genre essentially when I was a kid to this very point is technically, you're a badass soldier fighting dinosaurs, right? That was that's still to this very day my favorite concept, right? So one of my favorite games, all the Turok games, right? Another one has got to be I'm probably gonna botch this one as well, but I think it's a racing game, a Gran Turismo. Is that
Gran
right? Is
Turismo,
that
yeah.
okay? That's also one of my favorite games because me and my dad like legit grew up playing that game. That game is it's really hard to tell because in my opinion it just feels like it's one of those games where it's a bit like you got to have a sense of taste to like that game, like if you're especially if you're really into racing, which I am.
Yeah.
So me and my dad really got into that, so that's one of my favorite games. And another one has got to be Mario Party. Love that game. That's where you kind of see people for who they are. Who should you trust, who should you hate? Most of the time it just ends up like fighting within the group. Again, one of my favorite games because it's a good get together, right? The number one favorite game, right, it's got to be Skyrim. Well, it's more of the franchise, to be honest with you, because
Yeah, for sure.
I started off with Oblivion, then moved on to Morrowind, and then I just fell in love with the series. So I started playing Arena, and so forth. But I just loved it because it's an open world medieval game, and you play as a badass dragonborn warrior, right? And you get you every time you kill a dragon, you steal their souls. And plus, I played on mainly on the PC, so I usually have mods. I have a bunch of them. So
Anime
yeah,
titties everywhere.
dude, that's do CBBE armor. Hell yeah, man! Shout out. Elder Scrolls is one of my favorite games, and I know it's one of my favorite games because of Skyrim, I failed the year. It's got to that point where like I would rather ditch or like skip school just to play Skyrim. Yes, I know it's bad, but for that to actually happen, that just goes to show that's like my number one game, right?
Yeah,
Uh,
for sure.
in terms of honorable mentions, I actually have a few.
Yeah,
Not that much. It's got to be Resident Evil.
yeah, for
Was one of my
sure.
honorable mentions. Silent Hill, rest in peace. Uh, and also it's got to be Fallout. Yeah, Fallout is an honorable mention. Like, don't get me wrong, I love Fallout, but
Yeah, I
that's it.
did say to you before, but I've never played New Vegas, aka the most acclaimed
It
Fallout
is.
game, pretty much.
It's one of the best. It would have made it on top, like one of my top lists of games,
Yeah.
but I can't. It is what it is. But yeah, that's pretty much it, man. But Jack, what about you? What's your top list or
All right.
top tier gaming list?
Yeah, so then I'm kind of just gonna stick with five in a ranking, and then just throw in a couple honorable mentions that I
Yeah,
think
for
of
sure.
afterwards.
Hmm.
Um, so my number five, I would have to say, is Devil May Cry 5. I love the franchise. I waited 10 years for this game. It was like it was worth the wait, and it's really hard to say that about anything that you wait 10 years for. Like, I mean, I didn't really wait 10 years to see Iron Man die, but Endgame was not as satisfying as Devil May Cry 5.
Right.
It's just a perfect culmination of what the series was, and it introduced a lot of different new mechanics, and I just can't wait to see where the series goes. My next one would be Titanfall 2. I would have to say that this is easily my favorite first person shooter. I mean, the story doesn't really make that much sense, but the campaign is like super fun. They have a lot of interesting mechanics for you to do every other chapter. Like there's a time traveling one, and there's just a lot of crazy things.
Interesting. Okay.
And being able to pilot a Titan, I love building Gundams. I haven't built
Hmm.
one in a while, but then it's just like it'd be really cool to pilot a mech, and you get to do that in Titanfall 2. So I would kill Apex Legends for Titanfall 3.
Same here. Same here.
Yeah. And then next on the list, I kind of just put the entire Yakuza franchise on here, but I would say that my favorite is the remake of the second one. But yeah, that franchise is just so good. The way they do side quests is just like, it's really super freaking goofy. And I know I put way too many like adjectives in front of what I just said there, but it's like, it's so dumb. You get to see these serious adult men who are fighting for their lives do things like, man, I don't even know where to begin with these dumb side stories. But it's just like, you get to like, okay, you know, I'm not even gonna go into it. And then next on my list, it's got to go to Bloodborne. Honestly, this is the only game I would actually give a 10 out of 10 to. Even though I have a lot of favorites, it's like a 10 out of 10 is like, it's not something that could be achieved easily.
I agree.
Yeah. So I just think mechanically, lore wise, and just like everything about the game is like super interesting and fascinating. And it's so different from like a regular Dark Souls game. And this game has a little more meaning to me because it taught me how to kind of face my anxiety and just run headfirst at my problems. And yeah, that's why Bloodborne would be my 10 out of 10, number 2.
Okay.
So even though I say that's the only game that I would give out a 10 to, my number 1 would still have to be Tetris.
Yeah, that surprises me, but why is Tetris your number 1 game, guy?
It's the definition of easy to learn but difficult to master.
Oh, okay, got you.
And it's a game that I bonded over with my family a lot. Like we would play a lot of Tetris together, and I don't know, it's just like every time I play it, I just get zoned in, and no other game could really do that for me. Like even if I don't want to play Tetris and I just end up playing Tetris because I'm bored, I get super into it.
So you would say like Tetris is like that game that's like legit, like no matter what day, whether it be a bad day, good day, whatever the day, right? That's the type of game that you would play because that's your game.
Yeah, I think so. Like I don't like to play a lot of puzzle games or any. I mean, I do like playing other games.
I mean,
like
Tetris is a puzzle game.
Yeah. I don't like to play a lot of like games like Tetris. There's like maybe only I don't know if you ever played it, but Super Puzzle Fighter 2, I think.
I've never played it.
Yeah, it has like the Street Fighter characters in it, but like in
cool.
chibi form. But that's like another puzzle game that I really like playing. But it's only like that and Tetris that I really like puzzle wise. Yeah.
That's very interesting, man.
But yeah, honorable mentions, I would have to throw it out to Modern Warfare 2. Is the first game I played online, and it's like the reason why I got. I mean, I wouldn't call myself good at shooters, but I was pretty good at it. Never got a nuke. I couldn't quick scope for shit, but I was kicking ass. Another one would be Left 4 Dead 2. That's a game that I just have a lot of memories with. It's a game that I could always kind of go back to. I mean, it's been a while since I played it, but it's just like one of the best zombie games. Easy.
Yep.
Yeah. And lastly, I would have to give it out to the Ori franchise. So Ori and the Blind Forest and Ori and the Will of the Wisp. Because they're just really fun indie games, Metroidvanias. I'm a pretty big fan of Metroidvanias. I haven't beaten a lot just because like they're really big.
Right.
So that's probably one of the reasons why I really dig the Ori series. It's like you could play through them in like 8 to 10 hours, and that's a pretty good length for a indie game, I would say. And even though both of the games are like fairly similar, it's like the gameplay of both are very different, and that's what I love most about it.
Okay.
So yeah, with our favorite games out of the way, Mac, would you say you prefer single player games or multiplayer games?
I'm actually more of a multiplayer games, man. I didn't really find single player to be, I think it's pointless,
Wait, really?
Honestly, usually whenever I get a game, I just skip over single player, dude. It's useless. I think it's not necessary.
Dude, what the fuck? I thought this was gonna be a single player podcast. Like,
Wait, what do you mean? I thought differently.
like we were gonna talk about our favorite single player games all the time.
No. I thought we were going to talk about favorite multiplayer games.
What the fuck are we supposed to do now?
Next time on the Mac and Jack Attack, the battle of a generation erupts as the boys discuss the war between single player and multiplayer games.
You can listen to us at Spotify and iTunes and also watch our Twitch. The links will be in the description below. Thank you.